Hi everybody, Johnny here. I hope you're doing great today. You can find more good math at jmathpage.com. Today we're looking at multiplying 3's. And we're going to think about multiplying 3's using the area model. Okay, let's think about the area model. But let's start with these. You probably know these already. 1 times 3, 2 times 3, 3 times 3, 4 times 3, 5 times 3, 6 times 3, 7 times 3, 8 times 3, and 9 times 3. Now the area model is a way of thinking of multiplication using rectangles and the space on the inside. So 1 times 3 becomes 1 by 3. A rectangle that has a side of 1 and a length of 3. So let's go ahead and draw this. We need to have 1 on one side, and we need to have 3 on the other side. 1, 2, 3. So we can see how this is a length of 1 and this is a length of 3. Now for the area model to work, we need to be using rectangles. So let's go ahead and build a rectangle around this. If I build a rectangle around this, I can measure 1 on this side, 3 on the base, 1 on this side, and 3 across the top. Now I have my rectangle. My rectangle is 1 by 3, 1 by 3. But what I really want is the area. Now the area is the number of squares inside the rectangle. So let me go ahead and finish drawing this out. How many squares were hiding in there? If you counted 1, 2, 3, then you were right. The area of this rectangle, 1 by 3 rectangle, is 3 squares. So I can write that down. 3 squares. This also tells me that 1 times 3 equals 3. So that's how the area model works. Let's go to the next one. 2 times 3 in the area model means we need a rectangle that is 2 by 3. Let's go ahead and make it. So first I need a side that has a measure of 2. So there's 1, 2. So on this side I have 1, 2. On the other measure I need to have a measure of 3. So I need to go 1, 2, 3. Alright, so far so good, but now I need a rectangle to help me. So let's go ahead and build the rectangle. This rectangle has a side of 2 here, a base of 3, another side of 2, and a top measure of 3. So there's our rectangle. This rectangle is 2 by 3. But I need to know the number of squares, so let's break it up a bit. Let's go ahead and put these lines in. Oh, that's interesting. I notice when I put those lines in that I have 3 columns now. 1, 2, 3, just like here. If I draw this line across, how many rows do I have? I have 1, 2 rows. That's helpful. So, let's count the number of squares in the area of our 2 by 3 rectangle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 squares inside my 2 by 3 rectangle. 6 squares means that the area of a 2 by 3 rectangle is 6 squares. That's nice. This also tells me that 2 times 3 equals 6. All right. What about 3 times 3? Well, 3 times 3 needs a rectangle that will be 3 by 3. Let's go ahead and draw it. Let's see, one side has to have a measure of 1, 2, 3. So this side is measure of 3. The top, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 across the side, 3 across the top. What about our rectangle? Well, let's see. This side has a measure of 3. The base has a measure of 3. This side has a measure of 3. And this side has a measure of 3. Looks like a square. 3 by 3 means two sides are the same length. And these two are as well, so it is a square, a special kind of rectangle. Let's find out how many squares are in the inside. So let's draw the lines. I have 1 column, 2 columns, and 3 columns. Now I have 1 row, 2 rows, and 3 rows. So 3 rows and 3 columns make a 3 by 3 rectangle. Okay, good. But how many squares are in there? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 squares all together inside my 3 by 3 rectangle. 9 squares. What else does this tell me? It tells me that 3 times 3 equals 9. What about 4 times 3? Well, we would need a rectangle that would be 4 by 3. Let's go ahead and make it. Let's see, this side should have 4 on it, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure 4. This side should have 3 measures, right? So 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have our 2 dimensions. What about our rectangle? Let's build it now. This side would have a measure of 4, the base of 3, another side of 4, and a top of 3. There is our rectangle, our 4 by 3 rectangle, 4 by 3. How many squares on the inside? Let's make our columns. 1 column, 2 columns, and 3 columns. How many rows? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 4 rows, 3 columns. How many squares are there? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 squares all together inside our rectangle that is 4 by 3. So 12 squares. This also tells us that 4 times 3 equals 12. All right. 5 times 3 needs a rectangle in the area model that will be 5 by 3. So 5 times 3 becomes 5 by 3. All right, so what does that look like? Let's build it. 5 on this side, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 on this side. Across the top, 1, 2, 3 across the top. Well, let's build a rectangle to find the squares. This side will have a measure of 5. This rectangle will have a base of 3. Another side of 5 and a top of 3. There's a nice rectangle of 5 by 3, 5 by 3 rectangle. How many squares on the inside? Let's see. 1 column, 2 and 3 columns. How many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5 rows by 3 columns in our 5 by 3 rectangle. How many squares on the inside? Well, I see this first row must have 3. I see the first 2 rows together must make 6. I see that 3 rows together must make 9. And I see that 4 rows of 3 must make 12. So now I need to add my last row, 12 13, 14, 15 altogether. So my 5 by 3 rectangle, 5 by 3 rectangle has 15 squares inside. So 5 by 3 has an area of 15 squares. This also tells me that 5 times 3 equals 15. 6 times 3, we need a rectangle that would be 6 by 3. What does that look like? Well, let's start. On this side we need 6, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 6 over here, and then 3 across, right? 1, 2, 3 across. So 6 by 3, 6 by 3. Let's build a rectangle around this to find the squares. Okay, so this side will have a measurement of 6. The rectangle would have a base of 3, another side of 6, and a top of 3. So far so good. How many squares inside? Well, let's make our columns first. 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns. How many rows across? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have 6 rows and 3 columns. All right. How many squares? Well, we know our first row has 3 in it. We know that 2 rows of 3 have 6 squares. We know that 3 rows of 3 have 9 squares. 4 rows of 3, 12 squares. 5 rows of 3, 15 squares. 6 rows of 3. Well, we're going to have to add that bottom row, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. One more row. So let's go 15, 16, 17, 18. So 6 rows of 3 make 18. All right? So 6 by 3, here's our 6 by 3 rectangle, contain 18. So the area of a 6 by 3 rectangle is 18 squares. Now this helps us over here too, doesn't it? 6 times 3 equals 18. 7 times 3, we'll need a rectangle that is 7 by 3. Okay, let's build it. Here's the first measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 on this side. Across the top we need 3, so let's count them out. 1, 2, 3. 7 by 3. Alright, let's build our rectangle to help us count the squares. This side will have a measure of 7, a base of 3 for this rectangle, another side of 7 over here, and a top of 3. Now we have our rectangle. Our rectangle is 7 by 3. 7 by 3. How many squares inside? Let's build the columns, okay? So we have our first column, our second column, and our third column. What about rows? How many? 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows, 5 rows, 6 rows, 7 rows. So 7 rows and 3 columns give us a 7 by 3 rectangle. Well, how many squares are inside? Well, we know that 1 row of 3 gives us 3. 2 rows of 3 give us 6. 3 rows of 3 give us 9. 4 rows of 3 give us 12. 5 rows of 3 give us 15. 6 rows of 3 give us 18. Now we have to add the 7th row, so 18, 19, 20, 21 altogether. So in our rectangle, our 7 by 3 rectangle, there are 21 squares. So 7 by 3 gives us an area of 21 squares. This helps us here too, because 7 times 3 equals 21. All right, 8 times 3. 8 times 3, we'll need a rectangle that is 8 by 3. Okay, let's build it. We need a measure of 8 over here, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On the top, the other measure needs to be 3, so 1, 2, 3 across the top. So far so good. We know that we have an 8 by 3 measure. Let's build the rectangle for it. So this first measure will be 8 in length, right? So 8 all the way here. A base of 3. Another measure of 8 on the other side, and a top of 3. And we have our rectangle. Our 8 by 3 rectangle, 8 by 3. We want the area, so we want to know how many squares are in the inside. Let's mark them and see. So here's one column. Here's a second column and a third column. So now we have all our columns. We have 3 columns. How many rows? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we have 8 rows and 3 columns. 8 by 3. All right. How many squares do we have? Well, we know this first row of 3 gives us 3. We know that 2 rows of 3 give us 6. 3 rows of 3 give us 9. 4 rows of 3 give us 12. 5 rows of 3, whoops, that wasn't quite right. Let's make that a 12. 5 rows, so let's see where we are. 1, 2, 3, 4. We need this 5th one, right? So the 5th one should be 15. That's much better. So 5 rows of 3 make 15. 6 rows of 3 take us to 18. 7 rows of 3 take us to 21. Now we need to add that one last row. So 21, 22, 23, 24. So we know that 8 rows of 3 columns gives us 24 squares. An 8 by 3 rectangle, 8 by 3, has an area of 24 squares. 24 squares, that's so many. That also tells us that 8 times 3 equals 24. One last one. 9 times 3. Going to be a big rectangle, isn't it? So 9 times 3 should be a rectangle that is 9 by 3. It's going to take a little building here, so let's go ahead and make it. So let's count off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 9 on one side. Across the top, 1, 2, 3. 3 across the top. Let's build a rectangle for this. This side will have a measure of 9. There will be a base of this rectangle in 3 measures. The other side will measure 9 measures, and then 3 measures across the top. So 9 by 3, 9 by 3. Well, how many squares are on the inside? Let's break it down again. Let's make our columns first. 1 column, 2 columns, and 3 columns. How many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So 9 rows and 3 columns. It's going to be a lot of counting, isn't it? Let's use what we know already. We know 1 row of 3 makes 3, 2 rows makes 6, 3 rows of 3 make 9, 4 rows of 3 give us 12, 5 rows of 3 give us 15, 6 rows of 3 give us 18, 7 rows of 3 gives us 21, and 8 rows of 3 takes us to 24. But we have one more row left, 24, 25, 26, 27. So this tells us that our rectangle, our 9 by 3 rectangle, inside this rectangle the area is 27 squares. So 27 squares. This also tells us that 9 times 3 equals 27. Wow, what a lot of good work. Let's go back to the 5 times 3. We started with 5 times 3, but we wanted to know what this meant in terms of the area model. An area model means that we want to think about it in terms of a rectangle, and the 5 times 3 in the rectangle would be 5 by 3. One side would be 5 measures, another side would be 3 measures. Now when we built the rectangle, it told us how many squares would be on the inside. This is the area of the rectangle, and the area of the rectangle tells us the number that helps us here. 5 times 3 equals 15, because 5 by 3 gives us 15 squares. So this is the area model for 3's, and I hope it's been helpful to you.